AI is going to replace 92 million jobs. And everyone's like, don't worry about it, just develop new skills.
Yeah, I saw this message from this creator, and I don't have all the answers, but I've been working with AI for a bit, so here are my thoughts on it. So the first step is understanding the landscape if you don't have any experience with AI. Look at ChatGPT, look at Claude, and start playing with them just so that you become familiar with the nuances, understand how it works, and then you'll start to realize there's actually a lot of problems with them that still need to be resolved. So the first is they don't actually understand what they're saying. So a lot of people are using this inappropriately. They're asking it to take action on things, or they're asking about really kind of private level things, therapy, personal stuff, when like the reality is that these bots don't actually know what they're telling you. What they're doing is they're combining letters together and characters in a way that they believe has the highest probability of giving you the answer you want. So it has nothing to do with context, the subject. It is literally just generating random numbers and letters, serving that to you and saying, hey, is this good or not? You respond to it positively, negatively, and that impacts the next response. So that's first. Understand that it doesn't actually know what it's telling you. It's just good for understanding language, and barely even that. It doesn't maintain context. So that's one thing. The second thing is generally they are bad at math. They are called large language models because they are experts in language, in generating these characters in a way that makes sense to you, the human. But the reality is it doesn't actually know anything. So because of that, math itself, if you've done math with this in the early days, you know it absolutely sucks and it gets basic things wrong, like 2 plus 2 equals 4. It'll say 2 plus 2 equals 5 or something like that because it doesn't actually understand what's going on. So that's another thing to consider. The other thing that you'll find out when you start playing with these tools is that they're really bad at maintaining context and memory. So if you have a long drawn conversation with someone, it's like they almost forget what you're talking about, and then they're just trying to like navigate through this conversation, and it's inefficient, it sucks. And the reason why is because they don't really have memory. And if you look at the latest update for, I think, ChatGPT, one of the big things is like, hey, it'll remember what you're talking about across threads. And even now, it's not doing that too well. And even then, if I have these memories of different conversations, it's not necessarily good that I'm overlapping these conversations. I may be providing context that doesn't make sense in this context, right? So it's a problem that is the teams are actively aware of, and they're trying to address now. So like, what does this all mean for you, for someone who is afraid about your jobs for AIs and stuff? Understand what the knowledge gaps are. Understand where your skills can come into play and how you can position yourself for success. So the first thing is that they are good at executing. They don't really have any kind of other knowledge. So planning is going to be of utmost importance. And I didn't realize this up until I tried to vibe code an entire company. And then I started to switch some of my requirements midway because I wanted to go with a different authentication with a different database. And it completely threw off my project. Why? Because there's separate chats that have like these little snippets of context, then these other chat bots have these other snippets of context. Some of them are competing. They don't they're not really coordinating well. They have different interests, they have different goals. And then sometimes maintaining that documentation across all these different bots for them to kind of organize and do business together, work together and stuff, it becomes a significant challenge. So the best thing that you can do is get really good at planning up front. Is before you even kick off sort of in any AI project, you should have every single detail outlined and no intention of changing it, which is kind of interesting because that's essentially project management. And I realized as I was working through my project, like, hey, maybe I kind of suck at project management. I should be doing these things where I have everything, the scope nailed down, and I'm not changing it. The requirements aren't kind of up in the air. It is done. This is what we are going to do. This is what we execute on. So being good at planning, identifying clear steps, what needs to be done, all the different components that are involved in that, that is going to be of utmost importance going into the next 3 to 5 years. Because again, these robots are terrible at planning. They're good at executing. So think of it as having a team of people under you, and now it's your job to kind of give them direction, give them the next steps, and make sure that they do their job. So most of the jobs that are going to be available coming into the next 3 to 5 years are kind of management roles. So if you're doing something at the low level, you're handling individual tasks, you need to start thinking like a manager and say, hey, if my job is being replaced by a robot or a bot, how am I going to need to communicate with that bot in order to achieve business goals or even my own personal goals, things like that. So planning is going to be of utmost importance. The next thing is user experience and user design. Again, these things are great at executing, but they don't have any style. I mean, I barely have style. These robots definitely don't have style. So anyone who has a great eye for style, for color, for marketing, these kind of skills, you are going to be of utmost importance going into the future, especially because all of the coding skills are becoming significantly easier to gather. I mean, the things I'm doing now, I would never be able to do in the past for like years. And now I'm building up applications within weeks, and I'm realizing that the actual value here isn't the coding skills, it's the design skills. It's how do I get my user through this journey, through this experience, have a good experience, get them to pay for something, to be involved in this. That's all UX. And like things as simple as like where a button is positioned or even the color, it's been proven to have massive implications for business, for how much people are staying on your page, things like that. So UX design is of utmost importance. Project management skills is of utmost importance. Clear communication. People think they communicate well. Start playing with these bots and you realize, oh man, I leave out so much context, or I don't provide enough information for this bot or maybe even this employee. So work on your communication skills. That is of utmost importance. So I think going into the future, those are probably the jobs that are significant, which is project management, UX design. Anyone who's thinking in terms of systems, processes, and organization, you are going to kill it in the next couple of years. And then creative people. A lot of people think the creative jobs are going up, they're gone because it can create art or it can create videos, but we're so much more creative than that. We can create experiential events that encompass art, physical things in front of you that track your data across places. Like we just are so much more creative, and we're not thinking big enough. So the creative people, they're going to win 100% because now they have a team of creative people under them that they can manage and execute. But then again, it goes back to those core skills of being able to plan, being able to give milestones, being able to give tasks, and being able to create systems where you're not only following up with those tasks, you're evaluating how good was that task achieved, and then providing feedback to that bot so that it can learn more about what you're actually trying to achieve and then do it better next time. So first, it's about switching your thinking to focus on design, systems, UX, and those kind of skills, management skills, and start looking into your own career and looking at what technologies, what AI is being implemented in my career, whether that's marketing, whether that's medical. Look at all the things that are emerging within your space. Look at the software providers and start to manage those softwares, right? Because we all work in a company, whether we're technical or not, where we use some sort of online system, whether that's email, whether that's a project management platform. All that's happening is that there's new tools that have these AI intelligent systems built into them, but a lot of them you're already familiar with. So just look for the tools that you typically use every day. Look for a version of it that has AI components that a team has already built out. Become a master of that, because you're going to realize a lot of the current existing issues, where the knowledge gaps are, where you provide value. So don't be afraid of them. Start playing with these systems, start understanding its implications for your industry, become the people who push those systems, who are familiar with them, and become a master of it. And that's the only way, is to start getting involved, get your hands dirty, and start experimenting with this. That's the only way to realize the problems with them and the value that you add to these systems. There is some space for us to all operate in. You can even start automating things if you're a non-technical person with N8N, Make.com. There's tons of different platforms out there. So first, start with the research, start with planning. Understand what you're trying to achieve. Understand where you want your career to go. What are the implications of AI being in your field? And make sure that you're playing with these tools, becoming familiar with them, and embracing the next step of the internet. Well, thanks. I hope that helped. If it didn't, that's fine. Feel free to tell me. Maybe I need to articulate better because my communication skills aren't that great, right? All right, so I hope you enjoyed that. See you next time.